We were hunting a brown bear on the peninsula of Alaska. My brother shot a bear and our bolt jammed and the bear came after us and we survived with a pistol. So after that experience, I mean, it was a true like 48-hour survival experience, like getting out of there safely, not having a functioning rifle. And I mean, we killed the bear at like 5 yards and it was really intense and really scary and a whole thing. And then a big storm came in and we were stuck on the mountain.
How's it going?
Oh, it's going good.
Thanks for jumping in here this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, a little early Monday morning. You must be from Alaska because for some reason here all of a sudden it's deciding to try to snow.
Oh my gosh.
You're bringing some weather with you apparently.
But Alaska right now is 70 and sunny. So.
Is it? Mm-hmm. So where in Alaska do you live?
King Salmon.
Where's that?
Southwest, Bristol Bay area, kind of on the Bering Sea side.
Okay. Did you grow up there?
No, I grew up in northern Idaho, actually.
Oh, really?
On the border of Montana, Canada, Idaho.
Oh, really?
Moye Springs, Bonners Ferry area.
You know what we call Idaho? It's our fence between us and like Washington and Oregon.
Makes sense.
Yeah. They're not doing a very good job of keeping people out, though.
No.
So how did you end up in Alaska?
I ended up getting my pilot's license when I was in high school and loved to hunt, grew up with a bunch of brothers, So the outdoors aspect of being in Alaska along with the aviation side is what took me there.
Really?
Yep.
So how old were you when you got your pilot's license?
I was 17.
Really? Was there some local or did your dad fly or?
My mom was a pilot at a young age and she ended up getting in a plane crash and decided she didn't want to fly anymore. But she would tell me about all her adventures when she was young of being a pilot in northern Idaho. And we had a small airport there. And they actually put out a scholarship for juniors in high school. And I applied and I got it.
Oh, wow.
And so it helped me get my training and I got my private license. And then I ended up moving up to Alaska and getting my float plane, tail wheel. And I was not going to do commercial. I was going for air traffic control to make the money so that I could buy an airplane to fly.
Yeah.
and all that changed. But, I don't fly as much anymore. Just my husband does, but we do have a plane.
Yeah.
And that kind of is a whole part of our life of how we adventure in Alaska.
Yeah. What was the deal with your mom's crash? How did that happen?
So I believe she was over here in Montana. I can't remember which little town she was in, but she was flying a low-wing airplane and it was a hot day, high elevation. She was heavy. She had a bunch of big dudes in the back seat along with my dad, who was dating her at the time. And she took off and didn't clear the trees. And they went down in the trees.
Damn.
And the plane caught fire and everything, but they got out.
Holy shit.
Yeah,
they
she
all
was
got
young.
out?
She was like 20. Yeah.
Your dad still married her?
He did. Crazy, yeah.
So it wasn't an omen?
Yeah. They're still together to this day, but
wow, that's amazing.
She never really flew after that.
Yeah. Her. And so she didn't hesitate to allow you to get your license in?
Nope, I got mine. My oldest brother got his license. My youngest brother is on the way to getting his. And yeah, we all have planes and we all fly now, which is pretty cool. That's cool.
So how is it that you graduated high school and did you go right to Alaska or? What?
I went to Boise State for a little bit and I just kind of didn't want to be in the city.
Yeah.
I just realized I wanted to be out in the woods, and air traffic control is kind of what I decided to do to get me in the aviation community. And they had one of the best programs. I could either go to Alaska or I could go to North Dakota.
Okay.
And Alaska sounded way cooler.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I moved to Alaska. I was 19. I didn't know a single soul. And I made a bunch of friends up there and I graduated. And it was the start of my whole dream of building my family and our life in Alaska.
How did you meet your husband?
Funny story on that. We met on Tinder.
Really? Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we were married like 8 months later. And he grew up in northern Idaho too, in Post Falls. So we actually grew up close together, but he was flying seasonally in Alaska, flying float planes and for different lodges. So both of us loved Alaska and just wanted to end up there.
Yeah.
And so when he got his dream job and we moved out to King Salmon, that was like the start of we never want to leave. We love Idaho. We miss Idaho. We miss the lower 48 sometimes, and all of our family lives here. But we kind of live out in the middle of nowhere and have built our life, and then we come visit every once in a while.
Yeah. What occupation did he have then, and what was his life like when you guys met, or what was he doing?
He was doing seasonal flying. So he would fly to fishing lodge, a very high-end lodge where these clients come to be flown out every single day to go fly fishing.
Yeah.
And do world-class fly fishing. So he would fly for them 4 months out of the year. And then on the off season, he was in college. But once he graduated, we went to the oil field. So we ended up in North Dakota in the oil field, and that sucked. And
when you were married?
Yeah.
Really?
Newly married, he'd be like 2 on, 2 off, and we both realized that it was not what we wanted to do. I mean, we had to do it at the time, being young and broke and trying to make some money. But just like living for the money was not enough. And so we gave up everything, sold everything we had down to even our vehicle to put a down payment on an airplane and moved to Alaska with nothing.
Really?
And then he got his job. He worked for the National Park Service out in Katmai as a pilot. So he was a government pilot there for about 5 years. And then last year, because I started building my businesses and was doing really well, I was able to kind of retire him, and he quit so he could be a stay-at-home dad and hunt full-time.
Nice. So you're a sugar mama.
Yeah, pretty much. He tells everybody too if you ask him.
Yeah. So what businesses were you building then at that time?
So I built an online health and fitness coaching business virtually.
Mm-hmm.
I even had a couple employees here, like in Montana and Idaho and Oregon, and built a way to help people worldwide with their health from home. And that's kind of when COVID hit too. So people started working out at home more. They couldn't go into gyms, and so we did a lot of training virtually. And that is kind of what built my business. And then a couple years ago, I started my retreat business and started doing retreats in Alaska. Yeah. And then we just branched into Idaho, and I just literally got back from that last night. So that's fresh in my brain, and that was a really cool trip.
So what's the workout business look like? I mean, as far as, are you doing like classes where people follow you along, or are you putting out, do you have an app? What does that all look like?
I have an app with demo videos, and I teach some classes in person, but where I live, there's like 400 people and not a lot. So everything's pretty virtual. My biggest specialty that I love doing is training hunters for specific hunts. So, a guy will book a $40,000 sheep hunt, but he can't hike up a mountain. And it's my job to come in and get him ready for that hunt so that he can be successful. So I would say half of my clientele is like hunter specific, training for specific hunts, getting them ready so that they are successful and they aren't held back physically, mentally.
Are you working with them individually, almost like a trainer then?
Yeah, one-on-one.
Really?
Personal trainer virtually. And so, each person has their own like individualized plan, and I work with them on nutrition and their lifestyle and down to mindset and hormones and stuff sometimes when they're struggling with that. So
sure,
it's been really rewarding. I mean, I love coaching people. I love helping people, and I love seeing them, start from somebody that struggles to walk a mile to then hiking up a mountain and killing a doll sheep. It's pretty cool.
Was fitness always something that you were into? Was that always part of your life?
Yeah. When I started, like before I moved into the aviation world, I went to Boise State for sports medicine and nutrition, and I did bodybuilding competitions, and I basically worked out so that I could hunt harder. Yeah. And that was kind of my whole upbringing, is being able to be physically fit and healthy and capable to go to that next ridge when you need to, Yeah. And so, I train people.
How torturous is that bodybuilding?
Oh, it's awful.
World, like
I did 2 competitions and I said never again.
What percentage of body fat did you have to trim down to?
Oh, like 10%, which for a female is not healthy. Yeah. It took me years to recover health-wise because of it. But yeah, it was just.
How do you feel when you're in that? Do you feel exhausted all the time? Are you tired all the time? I mean, I would imagine you wouldn't have energy.
No, you don't, because you're working out 2 to 3 hours a day. And when you're cutting down and getting close to that competition, you're, 1,000 calories, 1,200 calories. So you're kind of starving yourself and working out really hard and trying to trim out the last, few pounds of body fat to look good on stage. And at that point I realized, okay, I might look good, but I feel like crap. Right. And I might look good, but I can't hike up a mountain right now. Right. And what's the whole point of this? If it doesn't help me be stronger and faster and more efficient, performance wise in the mountains, why am I doing it? Right. And so that's when I switched to more of a, functional fitness mentality and approach. And that's kind of what I do now.
So when did you guys move out to the spot you're at now?
7 years ago.
Okay. Yep. And you started the retreats when?
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Yeah, this will be our third year.
So explain kind of home is like where you live and what it's, because you say you're kind of out there. What's that look like for people that,
Yeah.
you know, a lot of people can't even imagine. A lot of people think where I live is really rural, right? Like,
oh my gosh, you can drive to a Walmart down the road.
exactly.
You know?
That's my point.
Yeah.
But we also have, you know, bears in the woods right out back, and we have deer in our yard. And so to a lot of people, you know, we can ride our horses down to the river, and it seems out there compared to most of America. So explain kind of what your daily life looks like.
So we live 300 miles off the road system, so you have to fly in to get there. It's kind of like an island, but it's landlocked, if you think of it that way.
Yeah.
So you are not getting to me until you can hop in an airplane, fly 300 miles, and then you're dropped off in this little village. It's got a big runway. It was an old Air Force base, like in the 80s.
Oh.
But there's about 400 people, and we have like a 20-mile long road, and it goes from a big lake in the national park to the ocean. And it kind of follows along the river. And that's the only road.
Yeah.
There's no crazy stores.
How did you
There's
guys choose
nothing
that
you can
spot? How did you find that little spot? Was it somewhere that Adam flew clients to, or?
It's kind of a hub for a lot of the world-class fly fishing lodges out there.
Oh.
So for most people to get to those lodges, they have to fly into King Salmon, and then they have to hop in a float plane and fly to their lodge.
Okay.
And it's like, you know, super remote that way. So he ended up already being in that area. Like when we were dating, I went and visited him there. He was working at a lodge in that town. And then when the job came up that he wanted, that was full-time year-round, and we didn't have to be in the oil field anymore, we were familiar with the area and loved it. And it's a great hub for, you know, hunting and fishing and adventuring. And so, yeah, outside of that road, I mean, you could fly around and there's nothing, just miles and miles and miles of nothing. And then you're backed up to thousands of square miles of national park and refuge. So there's just nothing out there. I mean, you can fly out and just not see a person for days or weeks on end. It's pretty crazy.
Right. And you're right there next to the ocean too. So what's your weather in that area like in the winter? Is it mostly rain? Do you get much snow?
Oh, we're like -30.
Okay.
Windy, snow, ice, dark for 8 months. Dark and cold.
Yeah. So it is truly winter. I wasn't sure if
it feels like the
south
Arctic.
you were. Yeah.
Because it's a lot of open tundra, and so that all gets frozen over. And we fly on skis. Otherwise, I probably couldn't handle winters out there. But if you get outside and you trap like we do, you know, trap and hunt, and we go on skis on our plane, it's so much fun. Because at that point, the whole ground is frozen, and there's snow, and you can land pretty much anywhere that there's no trees, you know, which there aren't a lot of. So you can just land, and it's like your whole playground for wintertime. But it's cold. It's really, really cold.
Your window, though, to do that stuff, unless you, I mean, I imagine you guys with a smaller plane don't fly much at night, do you?
No, nothing.
Yeah, so like your window during the day to go do that's pretty short.
It is. It's like 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. is kind of your window. So our kids are older. When they're in school, sometimes we'll go out for a couple hours and play, come back, pick them up from school, you know. It's like our car. You can't drive anywhere. You can't access anything unless you have a plane or a boat. And in the winter, you can't have a boat. So, and a boat only gets you so far with the one river and lake and ocean that we have. So our plane is like our transportation. And we don't have any real stores. I mean, we have like a tiny little hardware store and a tiny grocery store that's like maybe a couple of these rooms. It's not very big, and you know, milk's $18 a gallon right now.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's just crazy. So I have to ship in all of our produce and groceries on a cargo plane. I usually like do Instacart or have somebody shop Costco for me, take it to a plane, pay $1 a pound. They fly it out to me. I go pick it up. Like that's how we get our groceries. So for us, living as much of a subsistence lifestyle off the land is really important. So we do a lot of moose hunting, a lot of caribou hunting, a lot of salmon fishing, you know, with subsistence nets. Yeah. And that fills 4 freezers because buying and shipping meat would be insane. If it's in our backyard, you know, why not? So we get all of our meat for our family, which is a big family, and then we ship in produce.
How do the rest of the locals kind of survive financially? I mean, that's got to be a bit of a challenge. Probably not everybody there owns a plane.
Right. No, very few.
And maybe I would even imagine a lot of the locals maybe don't even have the know-how or the education that maybe you had to kind of create your own. You've harnessed the power of the internet to create a living. What do the other locals do to survive? I mean, is it pretty much subsistence living as well? And or
yeah, I mean, we have a huge salmon run.
Yeah.
Like 60% of the world's salmon comes from
So are they
where
working
we're at.
like fisheries, canneries, or
canneries, commercial fishing. So a lot of people in our community are fishing really hard, like starting now through the end of July, and that's kind of their work. And you make a bunch of money in that short amount of time.
Commercial fishing.
Yep. And then they live off that. And then they, some people hunt, but mostly by boat. They'll go out, shoot a moose, and have their meat. But a lot of people, will shop the store, or a lot of people actually travel in and out. So they'll go to Anchorage, and you can have 3 checked bags per person. So like what I do is when I take all my kids into town, I get, 21 totes. And then I just fill it with groceries and dry goods and everything, and chicken food and
kids
everything
are all checking their totes.
And we're checking in totes of food and supplies because that's free shipping on Alaska Airlines. So we kind of work the system. I've had carry-ons of like frozen chicken and carry-ons of bags of potatoes. It's just what you do when you're out there. You make every
Imagine
ounce
if you were at LAX.
Oh my gosh.
With your family.
Everybody has their nice suitcases and purses, and we're like
totes of food
and bags of chicken food. It's pretty crazy. But we love it because we're out there and you're just away from the world. Like the way I explain it to people is you're kind of 20 years in the past.
Yeah.
And I kind of wish I was born and like lived in the 50s.
Yeah.
Before all the rules and all the hunters and stuff. And you just live out there and be in a cabin and trap and hunt and fish. And that's kind of the life that we like to live. So it kind of takes you in the past. It's a very simple life. We didn't even have unlimited internet with Starlink till about a year ago. Mm-hmm. So, you were paying really a lot of money to have like a limited amount of internet, not a lot of cell service, and you're just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It's pretty awesome.
That does show you though, how powerful, like when we got Starlink here, it's just kind of because it's a little better service, right. like we had internet. It wasn't awesome. We're not on fiber or anything here, so our internet can be kind of shitty, but still we had internet and it was, pretty much endless. But it shows you for people who are very rural, even like people in say other countries, think about how powerful that is that all of a sudden the rest of the world is kind of opened up.
Yeah.
Whether it's from an education standpoint or a business standpoint or just connecting personally.
Yeah.
To have, endless internet.
Oh, for me, it was huge because I built a business on the internet, but because our internet was so expensive and so limited, I had to only work on it. So, when you're out there, our first 5 years there, we couldn't stream a movie. We couldn't stream music. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could watch movies like in a DVD player, which now these days just sounds ridiculous because when we were kids, that was like crazy and unheard of, you're on VHS. Right. So it does kind of take you in the past a little bit. And then like I couldn't load Instagram story. It would take me 2 minutes to load a story, it's just,
right.
And now that Starlink is there, like you can be so connected. You have unlimited internet. You can do whatever. It saves me a lot of money and I can do as much business as I want to and not be limited month to month.
Yeah. So, did you have kids, of your own? Did you adopt kids? What did that all look like for having children?
We've been foster parents for a little over 5 years. We signed up for 1 and then we got a sibling group of 5 and we didn't want to split them up. So we kind of went from 0 to 5 kids overnight. And
how old were they when you got them?
2 to 10.
Wow.
2 to 10. And
5 kids.
And I literally got them the same day I started my online business.
Really?
I mean, it happened at the same time. So I was like building my business and trying to figure out how to be a mom to 5 kids at the same time. I don't even remember those first 2 years because it was so hard and so challenging. We adopted them a couple years later. And then we've had probably 12, 13 kids in and out of our house. Since then, we've adopted 5. We currently have 2 extra with foster care, a baby, and then an older teenager that we kind of took in just because her mom was struggling.
Are these all mostly local kids?
Yeah.
Right,
they're from different villages.
So not necessarily from your town?
Right.
Okay.
There's tons of little Alaska Native villages all over western and southwestern Alaska, and they're pretty crazy. I mean, when you see them, it's like third world country. Yeah, that's what it's like. And so,
well, there again, we're talking about milk at $18 a gallon, and all these challenges. And then if you take people who are pretty uneducated or disconnected, and how expensive the world is, it would be very, very difficult, to survive, frankly.
Yeah, and they can't afford to fly out. So like my kids never left their village. their whole life until they came to us.
What was that discussion like between you and your husband when, you guys just decided like, hey, let's take in a foster kid?
Yeah. We couldn't have kids and we wanted a big family.
Okay.
We did in vitro twice. We did all the treatments and stuff and nothing was really working. And at that point we had moved out there. We saw the need of so many kids that needed good homes and good families. And that's when we decided, we're like, hey, let's try this out. And we had no idea it would be like our calling. We don't love being a part of it because the system's so messed up, but we know that we've changed lives and it's built our family.
Yeah, so. That's amazing. What was that phone call and conversation like when the lady's like, well, there's not just one, there's 5.
I was in Hawaii on vacation with my mom, and Adam was doing some flight training in Idaho, I think. And we were both just kind of down here for Christmas break, and then we were going to head back to Alaska in a week. And we had been waiting for about 1.5 years. And I think it took a long time because where we live, there's such a big turnover. Like people come in and leave and come in and leave, and people don't stay for more than 1 to 2 years because it's so difficult. People see all the highlights of our cool life, but it's very challenging to live out there and to not be connected and have all the amenities and the conveniences that most people do these days. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't really consider us locals, I feel like, till we hit like the 2-year mark. And that was at the time that we got the phone call where she's like, yeah, so, I've got a placement for you. And I was like, really? Because we've been waiting for so long. Mm-hmm. And she's like, yeah, but, there's 5 of them. And she'd called me and Adam wasn't even with me. And I was like, I should talk to him, but I want to say yes. I was just ready.
So there was never even a discussion about splitting them up, or was her initial thought like, well, you'll have to choose one, or was she really asking you to take all 5 right from the start?
So she wanted to split up the older ones first, just because the oldest girl, she was 10, and she had raised the younger siblings.
Really?
And she said she's kind of like a mom figure, and I kind of want to split her up just to like help her learn to be a kid. I was like, okay. So we took 3, and then like couple months later, the 2 moved in. So it was like 3, and then they would stay at our house because they missed their siblings so much. And then we're like, hey, these girls are great. Like, let's keep them together. Why would we split them up? So it's kind of a joke now because nearly every time I've gotten a phone call, Adam has been out of service flying.
Really?
And so most of our kids we have 7 right now. I said yes to without running it by him first because he was out of service flying, and if he comes you don't home say yes, they'll go to somebody else, and I'm like, okay. So he jokes that every time it happens, he's out of service, but he's a great man. He goes along with it, and he's like, well, whatever he feels is right, we'll do it,
Yeah.
So he trusts my decision making.
How was that first week when they split those 3 up? I would imagine that was probably really hard on the oldest one. Were they with a parent at all in that?
They were in a foster home.
They were
a couple miles down the road. Yeah.
How long it had been since they had been with their actual parents? 2
months, maybe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So they just gotten put in foster care.
Yeah. It was pretty fresh. It was pretty new.
Yeah. How was that?
They really missed them. It was tough.
Yeah.
Like the younger ones wouldn't sleep. They would just scream. I think the first couple of nights, I don't really remember, but I remember them screaming like themselves to sleep for 2 to 3 hours. Like you couldn't get them to sleep because it was like you took their mom away from them, and it was really hard. And putting them together, anytime you put a family together, it's a different feel. They have each other, and when you split them up, it's really difficult. And we've had siblings since then that have been split up from their siblings, and it's just really hard on them. It's always better to keep them together if you can.
How long did it take for you to feel like they started to accept you guys? Was it pretty quick, or?
Yeah, they liked us. Yeah. They still have their tie. Their longing and ties to their biological parents. Mm-hmm. One of them isn't living anymore, and one of them's homeless on the streets, and they still want them.
Right. Sure.
So it's hard to bond, especially with older kids. Like our youngest one we got when she was 2. So she takes tests. She doesn't really remember her parents. Mm-hmm. But the older ones, they grew up with them. They want to be with them. Right. Even though they know it's not safe. They want to see them. They may not want to live with them, but they want to.
Do they ever get to go see them?
Yeah.
Do they?
We tried to stay, their mom died, but we tried to stay in touch with their dad as much as possible. And he lived in Anchorage, and we we kind of helped him get on his feet, and we bought him a car and tried, because he got a job and he got clean and sober. And so we really tried to help him kind of get on his feet so that the kids would have a better relationship with him, and he was capable of that. But then after their mom died, he really struggled, and he ended up on the streets. And then you don't have a way to contact him, right? But it was really crazy, actually. 2 weeks ago, took our kids in, and this is kind of another part of bush rural living that you don't think about, but 3 of my kids have braces now, and we have to fly them in for their appointments every
for an adjustment.
8 weeks.
Yeah.
It's like a $2,000 adjustment.
And
it's crazy.
We complain about, 2 of my kids have braces right now. We complain like, I got to find time to run them into Missoula. It's 20 minutes away.
Right.
Yeah,
we have to take 2 to 3 days, fly them in, get their adjustment, get a hotel, get a rental car. It's a whole process for them to do their adjustment every 8 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And it's very expensive, but teeth are important. So we went in for their appointment, and my kids hadn't seen their dad in like 8 to 10 months or somewhere in there. And we knew he was homeless and not doing well. And so my oldest daughter's like, what if we run into him? Can we look for him? So it's so sad. Like, we're driving around the big city, and they're just looking at every homeless person, like looking to see if they can find him.
Oh, geez.
It was heart-wrenching. And then every time we go out to eat, they want to keep their leftovers and feed the homeless. Like, I could cry, because it's so, you see this different life of kids that have been through so much, and they truly like care about those people. They don't just ignore them. They'll like stop and give them food or stop, And so we went to the store. I had like one more stop I had to do before I had to leave on my flight to come down here. And we like park on the edge of the street. And for some reason I was like, we need to park here. And I like park here, and I go inside with the girls, and I come out, and he's there. Like, he just showed up out of nowhere on a bike. He drove right past our car as my daughters were getting in the car, and he recognized him. And it was like this crazy reunion. Like, they were sobbing and crying, and we just ran into him by happenstance, and they hadn't seen him in almost a year. And it was pretty special. I was like, girls, that was a miracle. She's like, well, I prayed for it. I was like, well, that's crazy. I mean, we're in a city of 300,000 people.
Yeah.
What are the chances of like crossing paths with him at that moment, And so that was pretty cool. So they got to see him.
Do you feel like he's appreciative of you guys for what you're doing?
Yeah. He's the only reason we have him, because long story short, their tribe tried to step in on adoption day, like down to adoption day, and take them back. It's a 3-year process. And he was the only one that said, no, I want the Grendas to have them, because they're going to have a better life there.
Really?
And because he stood up to the tribe and he supported us, that's why we have the kids. Like, it's truly a miracle, to be able to adopt Native kids just with the ICWA law. And so he's always been supportive. He's always really grateful. He's always, thank you so much for taking care of my babies. He's a great man. And that's why we tried to help him so much get on his feet, So we saw him, we gave him some money. We're like, get you some food and what do you do? It's just so hard to know.
That's hard. Yeah.
How to handle that situation. I don't know if there is a way to handle it, but
taking care of his children, that's what that's the payment right there.
Yeah.
You could give him all the food and money in the world, and unfortunately, depending on his circumstances, giving him money might be maybe potentially not the best thing for him. But taking care of his babies is the best gift you could ever give him, I'm sure. That's cool.
Crazy. I mean, when a man looks at you and you've like got his kids, and he's like, I need some toilet paper, you're just like, oh, okay. So I need a drink. I don't have anything to drink. I don't have anything to eat. And I was like, should I give him money? Should I like scrounge around for snacks in my car from the kids,
Yeah.
But I wanted to show the kids that I cared.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to also show them that it's not my responsibility what he does with this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's our responsibility to help people and give to them and give back. And then what they do with that is up to them.
Right.
Right. We can't like force him to make certain decisions. And, that's kind of
were
his
the kids
deal
pretty happy going away from there? Were they pretty happy that they'd gotten to see him?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And it's just important. You look at all the kids that are kind of cut off from their biological family and how many struggles they have. And, they have their struggles, but I think keeping that open communication with their biological family has helped them more than if we tried to cut them off from it. And yeah, I think just for them, they don't know every day if he's still alive.
Right.
So every time they see him, it's this sigh of relief of, oh, he's still alive.
How old is the oldest now?
To feel that as a kid, I just don't understand because I've never been there.
Yeah.
She's almost 16.
Yeah. For sure, for them to see him and see with their own eyes that he's relatively healthy and, alive is important. How is it when you bring new foster kids in? Do your current kids tend to be pretty excited about that and pretty helpful?
They are.
I would imagine they would kind of know what those kids, more so than you could ever know. They know what those kids are going through, and I would imagine they would be more helpful than, let's say you did have 2 or 3 biological kids of your own. There's no way that they could relate, but your current kids can relate to these new kids coming in, I imagine.
They are so welcoming. I mean, they welcome every kid in like it's their own sibling. And it's hard because every kid that comes in, has their own set of struggles and own set of trauma that they come with. And so it disrupts the whole family unit.
Yeah.
And that's why my husband and I have gone back and forth so many times. Like, at what point do we just stop and just focus on our family and quit disrupting the peace,
Right.
But at the same time, like, there's so many kids out there that need help. And like, if we could help them have a better life than the alternative, why not?
It's also
even if
hard,
it's more stressful and harder on us.
It's also hard because you're going to put all that work in, and it's most likely temporary.
Yeah.
So they're going to end up back in the situation likely they came from.
Yep. We've had a few like that where we like raised them and then 2 days notice yanked and back home and you never see them again.
Yeah.
And it's the most heart-wrenching thing because they feel like your kid and it feels like they've died because they're just like gone the next day and you never see them again. And it's a really, really hard thing. And that's why people are like, oh, foster care, I could never do it. I said the same thing before I became a foster parent. I could never do that. And then you just do it. You just do it and you give your life and you sacrifice and you do what you need to do because those kids' lives are important too, It's
got to be hard on that child going back too because they're going to be back in their situation but know a bit of what they're missing, somewhat of a normal family and love and food and the adventure that you guys do have, and they're back in their situations. It's
there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah,
that's tough. You know what's happening, and there's nothing you can do.
Right,
it's pretty tough.
Yeah. So the retreats that you started, how did that idea come about?
It's kind of a crazy story. I think I don't know how many people have seen it, but I have a video out on YouTube on our Stuck in the Rut hunting channel of a brown bear charge that happened to my brother and I 3 years ago, where we were hunting a brown bear on the peninsula of Alaska, biggest brown bears in Alaska. And my brother shot a bear and our bolt jammed and the bear came after us and we survived with a pistol.
Really?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that either.
Oh, okay, you should probably watch it. Actually,
and we'll.
I can't even watch it because it still brings up so much.
Really?
Yeah. So after that experience, it was a true 48-hour survival experience, like getting out of there safely, not having a functioning rifle, and we killed the bear at 5 yards. And
really,
it was really intense and really scary and a whole thing. And then a big storm came in and we were stuck on the mountain. But when I came back from that, it was a pretty traumatizing experience for me. And I felt like I had this shift of something that was going to happen internally. Why did this happen? Where is this going to lead me? And one night I woke up in the middle of the night and I just had this idea that I needed to take women out into the wilderness to help them gain the skills and confidence to survive certain situations. And that's how my retreats were born, is from that experience, almost dying from a 10-foot brown bear. I was like, I got to take women out there because I knew that without the training and the skills and the confidence that I had, I wouldn't have survived.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't be here today. And so if I could give that gift to women, take them out there, let them experience just our lifestyle out there for one, because it's magnificent and beautiful and amazing, but also learn the skills and confidence to be able to survive when those situations come up. That was kind of how everything was born.
What kind of things are you teaching women in these retreats? It's, my wife actually, I think you guys donated one to, it could have been maybe a Mule Deer Foundation banquet or something down here.
Oh yeah.
There was one down here and we we bid on it for a little while, didn't end up getting it, but
the sheep one.
Maybe it was sheep. I don't think we were at the sheep one here. I don't know. Anyway, I know we were.
I did a few. So
we were somewhere at one of those, and I remember it being something that I thought my wife would really, really enjoy. But what kind of things do you teach out there?
So we go and see the bears in Katmai just to kind of get the experience of Alaska, But a lot of the skills we teach shooting. We go camping. We do a backpacking hiking day.
And is this all, you're flying them all into their spots?
Yeah. Like you come to King Salmon, hop in a float plane. We fly out to a lake or mountain in the middle of nowhere, get dropped off.
How many women?
10.
10?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's a somewhat small group.
Are you the only instructor, or do you have another couple instructors with you?
Yeah, Lindsay Persico. I don't know if you know her. She lives here in Missoula. She's one of them. And then I have one more from Idaho. She's kind of like a life coach therapist. So she's kind of there to help like support people when they're, struggling or missing home or having some of those mental struggles that you have when you're in the middle of nowhere and you have no way out, Mm-hmm. And then, we bring 9 to 10 women out with us and give them the full Alaska experience. So it's equally fun and adventurous as well as challenging. And most women walk out with a better perspective on life, like what's important, how to adjust their priorities and do the things they want to do. And time again, I just hear like, oh, that trip changed my life.
Yeah.
People quit their jobs, they move, they break up with that boyfriend or, it's like it gives them perspective and clarity to be out in the middle of nowhere, disconnected from self-service and all the distractions. And then they come back and realize that they might be living a life that they never wanted to.
Right.
And they do those things that, lights them up again and plan the trips that fill their cup. And that's kind of why we brought it to Idaho too, because I can only take, up to 10 people out on my Alaska one. But in Idaho, we could bring 60 to 80 women and do the same thing, but on a, scaled down level and help beginners and people that might not, be ready to go take that jump and go fly in the middle of nowhere in Alaska and do that. Maybe have never camped before and they kind of want to feel for it and see if they like it.
Talk about that one you just did in Idaho, because that was just this last week.
Yeah.
A couple of our people helped you with it, Jessica Byers and Shelby. Helped out a little bit there. And it was a lot of women. How many women were at that?
With the instructors and everything, we had 85 to 90, depending on the day, because we had some people that dropped in and left and came out, and it was insane. I mean, I don't know. There could be something out there like this, but I've never seen anything like this before, and I've never been in a place where you could bring in 90 women and have like zero drama.
Yeah.
And have women that all had the same interests and likes, and it was about camping and shooting and hunting. And I mean, where do you find that? It was cool.
Did you have a lot of women there that had never done any of it? Or was there
a few?
Really?
Quite a few that were like beginner, just starting but wanted to. I want to learn. And then we had some that, have been doing it for forever and still want to learn. And I still, I've been camping, hunting, living in the backcountry since I was 5. But I still learn when I do these workshops and learn from different instructors, because everybody has ways of doing things and everybody has different perspectives and different, life experiences. So regardless of what skill level you are, I told the women at the beginning, we're all coming in at the same level playing field. There's none of us that are like better than anybody else. We're not trying to be the best. We're all here with an open mind, ready to learn.
Yeah.
And it was so cool because everybody was positive and happy and smiling. And I mean, it was so cool.
And this wasn't just like sitting around talking or classroom stuff or whatever, but I mean, like you guys literally butchered animals.
Yeah.
I mean, like for real. Didn't you guys harvest an elk, right? Yep. Obviously it's not hunting season, but there's elk like farms, where you can go and get
high fence ranches and
stuff. So, talk a little about that, like, because you taught breaking down the animal, right? Mm-hmm. Cutting up the meat.
Yep. Yeah. So with all the women that we had there, we had over 20 different workshops, and each day there was a theme and you could choose which workshop. And we had a gal that was runner up on Alone season 9, Carrie Lee. And she came and taught herbalism and foraging and shelter building. And then we had like survival stuff, and we had shooting, and Christy Titus came and taught rifles, and then Gunworks came and taught long range. And then We had like 100-time champion pistol shooter come and teach handguns. You know, I mean, it was just, there were so many cool women there.
Yeah.
Like, and what's cool is you can come into an experience like that and you might think that you know stuff and you're like, oh, I'm pretty advanced. And then you see what all these women can do and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Like, I have a lot to learn,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so one of my workshops was an advanced hunting group. Like Friday was a hunting day. We did a hound hunting workshop where we brought hounds in and they went out and looked for bears. And
did Adeline do that or?
No, who? She was supposed to. And then she's like, I'm busy.
Really?
Yeah. She's been busy with clients. So next year I'm going to walk her in on a date. So she's coming. Yeah. We found another gal that had hounds, but
that's cool.
Yeah. I love Addie. I missed her. But yeah, we did hound hunting and we did an intermediate hunting class and a beginner hunting class, and Shelby and Jess helped with those. And then I took a small group of like 8 advanced hunters and we went to go kill an elk, because the whole point of it was to learn how to like stalk an animal and then kill it and process it and then cook it the next night for everybody and have fresh elk, you know? So I've never, ever been guided. Like I've never done a high fence ranch hunt. It was so new to me. I was like, what is this? This goes against like every hunting instinct that I have. But the whole purpose was a learning experience. And one of the girls had never shot a grouse before and with her bow, but she had shot the day before. And Jess is like, she's a really good shot. Like we should give her a chance. So we took her out there and we did some stalks on some elk, and, you know, it was still like hunting. I was surprised. I mean, we're in thick timber and brush and you still had to like find the elk and stalk in on them and set up, you know. And for women that had never, you know, really done that before with a bow, that was challenging.
Right.
So we did a few stalks with the bow. Didn't quite work out. We only had one day to get it done because like we needed this elk, you know. I was planning on it.
Yeah.
So then we switched to rifle and had a girl. She went with the rifle. It took us 5 hours to kill an elk that day. I mean, we hunted hard, and she was so happy. Like it was so much fun. And then, you know, I taught him how to like cut it up, the gutless method, which a lot of people haven't done, and, you know, packed it out and did the whole thing. And it was a lot of fun. And then we were able to bring that back to the wild game processing class. And with the help of your knives, we cut up that elk into steaks and ground it into burger. And then we brought in a couple of farm sheep and had them process those too, so that we could have more hands-on and people were able to like learn to take a quarter off and learn to pull out a backstrap and things that they had never done. And just to see them like light up doing something that they didn't think they could do because their brother or husband or whatever always did it for them. They would like cut the backstrap off and just, I did it. You know, it was so cool to see their faces when they did something that they didn't think they could do. And they were like, oh, it's a lot easier than I thought, you know?
Do you have,
it was cool.
So are you going to do it again next year?
Yeah. So it's called the Wild Women's Rendezvous. We're going to do it again. We're going to add more workshops. We're going to make it bigger and better. And, you know, every time you do one, you know, a first of anything, you figure out what works, what to improve. I got lots of awesome feedback and some things we can do to make it a little bit better. Yeah. And to add more. So
how do people register for that? And do you have dates yet for next year or not?
Yes, it's going to be the second week of June. It's going to be the 9th to the 14th
of June next year.
Monday to Friday. So it would end the day before Father's Day again. And because of that, like bear season is still open. So any Idaho residents, you know, we can shoot coyotes, we can shoot bears, we can do lots of different stuff for any residents.
Sure.
I'll probably go do an elk hunt again. Because we wanted to get people like hands-on experience. And then we brought in some trapping instructors that brought a few animals, and we had a bunch of beaver hides that they were fleshing and salting and putting up. So you learn everything from like trapping to hunting to hound hunting,
you know, it's
or whatever.
Cool you're doing this for women, but this would also, it would be highly successful for men as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, everyone's like, can I wear a wig and come? No.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah.
No, you cannot.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of volunteer instructors with that many women in one area. But
yep. And we tried to keep it all women with instructors too. We had one instructor that was a dude, and he was from Gunworks, you know, because they do the long range shooting.
He was
school.
like, how did I get this lucky?
Yeah. But he did bring in Gigi from Gunworks and had her in the class as well. And it just changes the dynamic. You know, women are a lot more comfortable when they're not confident when it's all women. So we did like all women instructors, all women attendees, and it was awesome.
That's really cool.
And that's really hard to find.
Did you guys sleep in tents or what?
Yeah. Everybody brings their own camp, and they all camp together.
Yeah. Cool.
Got the full experience. It was like 85 degrees, man. I was dying.
Well, yeah,
hot.
we
I'm sunburned, as you can see.
Yeah, we had, this is Montana for you, but I mean, you know, it was mid 80s that week, and then today they're calling for snow in the mountains, and it's freaking 40 degrees. So
it's crazy.
Yeah, which, I mean, you're used to crazy changes in weather as well, but that's how it goes.
Yeah, it looks like Alaska weather today.
But I'm sure you guys are glad you'd probably rather have a little sunburn than be sleeping in tents right now with rain and just miserable.
Gosh, I loved it. I loved the sun, even if I'm getting burned and everyone's like, oh, this is so hot. I wish we had clouds. I'm like, trust me. If you lived in Alaska and had clouds every day, you would want the sun right now. I mean, it was glorious for me, but it was hot, and that's exhausting.
Now, do your kids hunt?
They do. Surprisingly, my girls like to hunt better than our boy does, but my daughter shot a 72-inch moose last year as her first moose at 15. It's
That's
like
amazing.
Number one youth in the world. I'm like, dude, where are you going to go from here? You know, like, she's awesome. She's a really
What did
great
she
kid.
think of that? Was she stoked?
Oh, she loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
72-inch moose.
Oh, yeah. Scored like 254. Giant. Like bigger than anything myself or my husband has ever killed. And it was her first. We're like, okay, well, she's ruined for life.
Yeah, no doubt. Do you guys still bear hunt?
Yep.
Even after your experience, you still bear hunt?
I haven't killed a brown bear since then.
Yeah.
But I'm going on a polar bear hunt, archery, next spring. So.
Archery? Wow. Badass.
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Figured that's how I, got to keep pushing. I can't give up. Not going to let my fears control my life.
Yeah. Do you have bear problems where you live, like around your house or?
Yep. Imagine brown bears like rodents.
Really?
Where we're at. I mean, they are just all over. There's so many bears. We get bears through our yard. It's kind of unnerving, especially
with kids.
Like, you're not going to keep your kids inside. Like, that's why you live in Alaska. So you try to teach them bear safety and situational awareness and kind of keeping their head on a swivel and always looking around. But yeah, we've had sows and cubs in our yard. We had a couple bears in our trash last year. I mean, you have to lock up all of your trash. It was so foreign to me to be down there this week and people have like garbage cans that are open. Because if you have that, you have bears running in to your yard and getting into it, I had a bear last summer break into our car that had trash in it, break the window, climb in, tear up all the seats, and it came back night after night after night.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like, they are just nuisance bears, and they're hungry. But then once the salmon come in, they kind of go to the salmon streams, and that's what they eat. And they're not, like, dangerous because they're fat and happy with all their salmon. But when they come out of hibernation, they're searching for food, and they often come into town to look for it.
Do you have much problem with people, like as far as attacks or anything? Have you guys had much in your town?
Mm-mm.
Yeah. They're pretty good. Yeah.
They just are nuisance bears. And just
yeah.
But it's still scary. Like, my kids were jumping on the trampoline at one point last summer, called them inside for dinner. They came inside. 2 minutes later, I look out. There's a brown bear that walks right by the trampoline through my yard.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh. And every time the bears come, like, it's right when my kids come inside. So I think sometimes they watch and they're kind of out in the woods, and because we're really backed up to a lot of woods there.
Yeah.
And they're kind of waiting and watching, and then as soon as it's clear, they go.
Jeez.
But we also can get a town bear tag each year, and we can shoot one bear every regulatory year.
Right in town?
Right in town.
Wow. Do a lot of people do that? Quite a few?
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah.
I still haven't, because every time my bears come in, it's dark.
Yeah.
And, you can't use artificial light or,
Right.
I mean, you could shoot them at any time, but you have to be able to see. So
right.
Mine always come in when it's pitch dark.
Does your husband help? Does Adam help with the retreats?
Yeah, he does. Mainly with watching the kids. That's his job.
Daddy daycare.
Yeah. But he runs my logistics back home too.
Does he?
It's kind of like my point of contact. I'm like, hey, can you arrange this? Hey, we need some of this. And can you arrange this flight? And so he kind of helps the logistics side. He's really good at that.
How many of those retreats do you do up there?
Normally 2 to 3. Last year we did 4. But because I got a foster baby a couple months ago, he's 1. He's like very attached to me. It was hard for me to come down here to do this retreat because I haven't been gone from him. Because I have him, I'm doing 2 this summer. So I did this one in Idaho, and then next month I'm doing 1 in Alaska, and that's it for the summer. I'm just taking it easy so I can be home with my baby,
Yeah. man, good for you for what you're doing for those little kids, because it's, like you say, there's a good chance that little kid probably goes back somewhere, and you don't get the satisfaction of knowing what happens in life, but like you also have to imagine they're going to 100% they're going to be better off for it, Mm-hmm. It's a very selfless thing that you do, because, Jess and I could probably do it, and we don't. Most people listening to this could do it, but they don't, because it's inconvenient, Mm-hmm. Or maybe you just don't even want to deal with that pain of knowing that when they do leave. So boy, good on you and Adam and your kids for accepting those kids in. My aunt and uncle did that. And for years there was this, it was terrible, but this back and forth, because they would basically, it would appear as though they were going to get to adopt them. They'd have these kids, and then they'd get ripped away and go back to mom. And then mom would relapse, and 6 months later they're calling them and, hey, will you take them back? And then they'd come back and iron out all the issues that had been created. And, it was this back and forth for a while before they finally actually did get to adopt them. Mm-hmm. But boy, it was some years of some serious challenges,
Yeah. It's so stressful. It's hard. It's hard on everybody, the kids, the family, everything.
Yeah. 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 And it's hard because it's like, you and Adam are tough. You can deal with, you can get past it and have that strength. But boy, it's tough to see that happen to little kids for sure. But,
yeah. And he's like, why do you always say yes? I'm out flying. I'm like, how do you say no?
Yeah.
I said no for a long time after the last boy that we lost, because it was just so hard. Mm-hmm. Like, I grieved for a really long time. So I was like, nope, never doing it again. And then every once in a while I'll get a call that I'm just like, I feel like I have to answer this one.
Yeah. Do they call quite a bit now that they know you're kind of a trusted place? Do you get,
if I have room? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Currently I'm full on our license, but if you have room, you get 4 calls a day.
No shit.
Yeah. 4 to 5 calls a day.
Seriously? Holy shit.
You have to say no too. No. Because you just can't take them all in. I mean, as much as you want to, you can't. I'd have 100 kids if I said yes to all the calls I got in the last year. That's
amazing. And they're all pretty much from the native villages up there?
A lot of them, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Are drugs bad up there in those villages? Is that the issue?
Yep. A lot of drugs, a lot of abuse, a lot of neglect.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. But what do you have any plans of anything coming up that you're excited about that's new, or do you have any more retreats the rest of this year coming up? Or
no, I mean, the biggest thing is we're planning the Wild Women's Rendezvous for next year in June, and then I'll have another one in Alaska in July. So, if you go to Bristol Bay Retreats, my website, or Wild Women's Rendezvous, you can see that and sign up for it. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I'm going to take it easy this year. I've been just running and traveling and doing everything the last couple of years with everything going on, and 7 kids at home. I'm just going to have a fun summer and take them camping and swimming and go out on the boat and just do a lot of fun things. And then
good for you.
Hunting season, of course, is our life. So
what's a retreat cost for
my Alaska ones are $8,000.
Mm-hmm.
All of the flights and everything. The one down here is $1,800 to $2,000, depending on the days that you show up. So, I mean, very, very crazy for what it is. But we're trying to get help with the Mule Deer Foundation and some of these bigger companies to help support it, so that we can keep this more affordable for low income people that would normally not be able to afford a really expensive retreat.
Right.
So that was pretty cool to be able to do that this year, and we're going to keep that one low ticket so that more people can come and be able to afford it. But the value that's there is insane. People are like, I would pay $1,800 a day for this.
Yeah.
With all the amount of, the quality of instructors and the things that we had there.
Well, and that 8,000 up in Alaska, I mean, it's people also ask, why these hunts are so expensive up there, and it's just the logistics, like you say,
$18 for a gallon of milk. I mean,
the logistics of getting that food out on location and
the flights,
all the people,
the avgas. Oh,
yeah,
hot.
Yeah.
And people think, if people look at retreats, they're like, man, they're making so much money. You have no idea the expenses that go into a retreat.
Right.
you know?
Yeah, but it's super, super special. I mean, you figure $8,000 to go see and do things that, you know, a lot of these hunts are $40,000 to $100,000.
Oh yeah, you're doing similar stuff.
You're doing very similar stuff in the same kind of areas. You're going and getting to see bears. You're camping out in Alaska. You're flying in bush planes. I mean, it's about as close as you can get to hunting in Alaska. And quite honestly, and it's really unfortunate, but hunting in Alaska has become kind of a rich man's game. I mean,
100%. Everywhere it's becoming a rich man's game.
Yeah.
You know?
So I think you're going to start seeing more and more of this kind of thing where people maybe take a camera and they go on a hunt in Alaska and they use their camera, you know, just because the cost of actually hunting is just so expensive.
Oh, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know how people do it, but.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, got anything else or anything else to add or that you can think of?
I don't think so.
What's your Instagram?
TanaSue_fit. Tana Sue Fit.
Okay, and then the retreat website?
Bristol Bay Retreats.
Bristol Bay Retreats. Okay, and we'll put this over this, and we might even we'll have to find that clip of that bear. And when you were talking about that, we might have to play that over the top of this if we have permission to do that.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, I admire you for what you do. You are you're talked a lot about down here. Richardson's always talking about you guys, and Adeline and Jessica, and you guys are doing some really cool things, and all the hunting and all that stuff aside, what you're doing for those little kids is incredible. And do you have any advice for people as far as foster people who are thinking about doing the foster thing and maybe kind of wavering back and forth? Like, do you have any words of wisdom or advice for those people that aren't sure if they are going to pull the trigger or maybe they can't have their own babies and they, you know, my uncle couldn't have kids, and he always kind of had that attitude, you know, if I can't have kids, if I can't have my own, I'm not going to have them. And he later on in life said he really regretted that attitude. He wished he had adopted, you know, but you know, him and Maya had a lot of fun, you know, but then all of a sudden by the time they're 50, you know, and slowing down and whatnot, you know, they're kind of left without the family dynamic of having kids, you know, and wished he'd have actually adopted and had kids that way. Do you have advice for people on that stuff?
Oh man. Easier said than done, but you'll never regret the love and security that you can give a child. Even if it's short term, even if it's temporary, because especially in those early childhood years, like 0 to 7, their brain is like learning and developing everything that they're going to know. So even if you only have them for half of that time, you are shaping the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And that will stick with them. So as hard as it is, you have to let go of how sucky the system is and how none of it makes sense, and how people are kind of screwing you over sometimes in the system and just treat you like a babysitter. And focus on, like, why are you doing this? Yeah. It's to give kids love and security that they would not have otherwise. What's the alternative? Yeah. You know, and it's hard. It's not fun. You'll probably cry a lot. There's a lot of stress. There's a lot of sacrifice. It disrupts your whole family. But there's so many kids that need homes and need good homes, because there's a lot of foster homes out there that maybe are not so great.
Right.
But they need really good homes and really good families. And if you have the capacity to do that, you'll just never regret it. It'll suck and it'll be hard and it'll be stressful. But when you look back on it, I would never change it, you know? Yeah. Well, thanks for doing what you're doing. It's awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming on. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Traveled all the way here. Thanks, Tana. All right. Yep.